Hey guys, it's Stephanie with Simarchy, and welcome to another speed build. Now, in this speed build, I am actually building a home, or maybe, I'm not sure if it's going to be the main character's home, but this is for my Alice in Wonderland Let's Play. So, it ends up being like this huge freaking castle. I mean, just like gigantic, which is what I wanted to do. But now that I'm thinking about it, it might be really hard to keep this as the main home for the Let's Play. So I kind of want your guys' opinion on that. But basically, the new Let's Play I'm working on is Alice in Wonderland. And if you've seen my other videos regarding this Let's Play, you probably know what it's about. But just in case you are watching this for the first time, what I'm going to do is, let's see, the backstory is basically, I mean, you all know who Alice in Wonderland is, right? As a child, she is portrayed sitting at a picnic or at the river bend along with her family, and she starts to kind of daydream and wander off and sees a white rabbit run past. So, of course, she gets a little bit curious and chases after him and ends up following him down the rabbit hole. And then the story goes that she meets a bunch of new friends and characters along the way, most of which are animals that are human-like they're talking and walking and things like that. And throughout her journey, she just explores Wonderland, and she meets the Red Queen, and I mean, you guys know the story, right? I don't want to go into all that again. You can watch some of my other videos for the backstory. But basically where my Let's Play picks up is what I imagine Alice being as an adult. So Alice is now grown. She has established a career as an artist, and she's actually made quite a living for herself. So now she's older. She wants to move out of the house. So this is why I'm building her a new home. And let's see, going back to Alice in Wonderland, her adventures in Wonderland, her parents and her sister kind of have always told her that that was all in her imagination, all in her head, that it never really happened. It was maybe a dream or something like that. And Alice herself isn't quite sure, but part of her really always believes that Wonderland still exists and that Wonderland was a real place, and she wonders if she can go back there. So in her attempt to find Wonderland, she actually ends up moving to this town, Mystic Falls, or Midnight Falls, sorry, I keep forgetting which one it's called. But it is the supernatural town that comes with the Sims game. And she figures, since this town is rumored to have, weird creatures and supernatural events that have gone on, and Sims have been rumored to be turned into like werewolves and mummies and vampires and all sorts of crazy stuff, Alice thinks this is the perfect place to start for her hunt for Wonderland. So that's basically where the Let's Play is going to start off. And again, I'm building this home, originally having the intentions of it being Alice's house, but with how big it ends up being, I'm really not sure. But anyways, there is oh gosh, that was such a long intro. There is a little photo down on the bottom left-hand corner that you guys can see. It is that beautiful pink castle, and that's what I'm building. And it is from the 1970s movie Alice in Wonderland. And if my memory serves me right, this is the Queen's Garden and the Queen's Castle. I might have to double check that fact. But when Alice first falls down the rabbit hole in this specific movie, because, things and details change throughout the different movies and TV shows and books and things that she's been portrayed in. But in this specific movie, when she falls down the rabbit hole, she finds a little door that she can't fit in. But when she opens the door, this is what she sees: this beautiful pink castle, which I believe she refers to as the garden, which I think is the Queen's Garden that she ends up in at the end of the movie. But so that's when she finds like the little drink me bottles and the cookies that help her, grow and shrink so that she can get through this door. That's basically where she's trying to go. So as a child, I vividly remember that scene. I vividly remember her opening that door, and that sort of memory just stuck with me. So when I rewatched the movie to get some inspiration for this Let's Play, immediately when I saw that image, I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to build. This is going to be Alice's home. Or at the very least, it's going to be, the Red Queen's castle. It's going to be in the Let's Play in some form or another. So let me just go ahead and actually talk a little bit about the speed build. You sort of at the very beginning of the video saw me play around with different fences and colors. I was trying to sort of mimic the fence in the image. And the image that you're seeing on the bottom left-hand corner is actually a cropped image of the bigger one. In the bigger one, you can see a little bit more of the landscaping and the fence that goes around the property and the big wrought iron gate in the front that's shaped like a heart. So what I'm going to do at the very end of this video is do sort of like a side-by-side screenshot so that you can see the entire picture compared to what I've built. And it's not an exact replica because if you've ever built in The Sims, you know that you're a little bit limited, not so much with like colors and patterns, but with actual structures and building materials. Sometimes you can't quite find what you want. And one thing I do end up changing that you'll see in the Let's Play, but you won't see in this video, is the staircase that I'm working on right now. A friend of mine was so super generous that she donated or gifted me one of the sim sets that I needed to make the stairs more curved. So yeah, you'll have to wait to see that in the Let's Play. Or actually, let me also just say this speed build is just the exterior of the home. And I put in so many hours. I think it was a total of 10 hours just to get this exterior built. So there is no furnishing, there is no floor plan or anything like that in this part, but I will do a part 2 where you'll see that, and there you'll see the staircase redone so that it's curved. And obviously you can't do curved staircases in The Sims. It is an object that came with I can't remember what set it was, but it comes with one of the sets that you could buy through the Sims 3 store, and that has the curved staircase that I end up using. Also, those stairs that you're looking at right now that are kind of L-shaped, those were also from a Sims 3 store pack. I believe it was the Prism Art Studio. I purchased that anyways because I wanted it, because I really wanted the stairs, but that was before I had this build in mind, and they just ended up working perfect right there. But yeah, that's basically the overview of the stair section. Also, you saw me build the fountain, which I had a hard time trying to make that look like it was circular. So I ended up just sort of doing that. I think it's an octagonal shape all the way around it. And I also couldn't make it raised. I really wanted it to be raised, but I had a hard time figuring that part out. So it's just kind of there on the ground, which you just kind of saw a quick shot of that. So besides the fence going around the property, the fountain, and the staircase, now you are seeing me work on the actual structure of the home. It goes by super fast, and I'm sorry. I usually try to keep the speed builds to a point where you can at least kind of see what I'm doing, but with so many hours put into this one, it was hard enough to condense this down to a 30-minute video already. So it does go by super, super fast, but I think you still kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. Basically right now, just trying to build the walls around the staircase. And this the pink exterior I use on the home actually changes to a different pattern, I believe. Yeah, that's definitely going to change to more of like a paint than a stone. It still looks very stone-like, but it's definitely going to be a different pattern. And right now I'm working on these doors. Luckily, we do have the curved doors, so that was easy to do. I was worried that I wasn't going to find anything, but I mean, there they are. You see them. They look pretty similar. I did spend quite a few minutes trying to fix the colors, and it's probably going to go by so fast that you won't even notice, but they were looking a little too green for my taste. I wanted them to be definitely like more brown or beige-ish, so I definitely played with those a bit. And now I'm trying to figure out what door would look best in the middle, and I settle on this one with the wood paneling. I couldn't get the door colors to match exactly, but that's okay. I don't think everything has to match 100%, but they do go well together, and I think that's the main point I was trying to get across. What else are we doing here? Still playing with those colors. I can't seem to get them just right. And I don't know. I'm not 100% happy with the way that the colors turned out, but you know what? Like I said, I did my best. And it's hard to get everything exactly like the photo because you don't really have a blueprint and you can't really tell the scale. So it does have to be imagined quite a bit. You have to use your imagination to sort of figure things out. And those windows, again, kind of hard to tell what they were. The only thing I knew for sure is I wanted to keep them sort of thin and narrow, so I settled on these right here. And in the picture, there's only 4 windows on the entire castle. So I'm going to have to take a little bit of creative liberty there and add some more because we all know how dark it is inside of a Sims home. So the more windows, the more lighting, the better off everyone is. So right now I'm trying to mimic like the white border around the bottom of the castle, and I didn't want to do all 3 floors that way because it just looked too much. So I think I just kept it confined to the first floor. And what I'm doing here with this pattern is I'm trying to mimic the little white columns. I thought this would be sufficient to sort of do like this brick inlay stone pattern. I don't even know what it's called, which I had a hard time. I know there's like a left panel and a right panel, but like my brain doesn't work that way, so I had a really hard time figuring out what to do. And yeah, those were supposed to mimic the columns, but as you can see from this wide, far away shot, it doesn't really resemble columns. So I don't know why I didn't think about it. Like I was trying to find a wallpaper that would work, and then later on it clicked, oh, duh, like there are actual columns in Sims 3 that you can use as a build object. So you will see me later, I think probably towards the very end of the video, go through and actually insert real columns there instead of trying to make the wallpaper look like columns. I guess that's what you get for looking at a picture of an animation and trying to turn that into a real 3D structure. I needed a little bit more creativity to to think about that one. I was thinking about it way too literally. So yeah, now I'm just kind of building the shape of the castle because again, the scale was just not. The scale wasn't going to work to do what I wanted to do with the scale of the picture. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically like the 2 long wide parts that extend out to the right and left of the castle are not in the photo. There's trees there instead. So I thought maybe I'll put trees in front so that when you look at it straight on, it still looks pretty much the same. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly like the photo. I don't know why I'm trying to make it exactly like the photo. I guess it was sort of like a challenge for me. It was a lot of fun. I didn't think I could ever build something like this just going off of a photo. But it was really cool trying to figure out how to make things work. Like those dome towers that I'm working on right now. Obviously, you can't make them circular, so I had to make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Octagonal. Sorry, I had to count. I couldn't remember if they were hexagons or octagons, but yeah. I thought that looked circular enough, as circular as you're going to get. And I think I do end up changing the height of these later on. Maybe not. Maybe I don't. I don't remember. But it was kind of hard to make that middle one look taller than the rest. So what I ended up doing with these dome roofs is putting them on the inside of the structure instead of all the way around. And since that middle dome was just wider, luckily the roof was able to appear taller than the rest. So I was really happy with that. But as you can see, they're sort of clipping into the wall here. There you go. There's a much better shot. And it's because like I said, I built the roof inside of the structure instead of around the structure. So I do spend quite a considerable length of time trying to cover that up. And in the video, I guess it only ends up being maybe a few minutes at most, and that's because it is thoroughly sped up. But I believe I spent maybe an hour or 2 alone on just trying to hide that clipping into the wall. And experimenting with different wall coverings, different colors. You'll see me, well, right now I'm trying to use the fence to cover it up, and it sort of works, but you can still see it, and the color's just not right. I mean, I had a hard time with this, guys. I really did. Oh man, just redoing it and doing it and redoing it and just trying to make it look right. It just wasn't working. So I thought maybe if I changed the color to kind of blend in between the dome roof and the stone wall, maybe it would sort of look like it flowed together more cohesively. And I think it ends up looking okay, but it's still not to my liking. But this is the pattern I settle on, this sort of, I don't even know what it is, sort of like a floral fabric. It seemed to blend in the best out of all the colors, and I decided to go back to just the pink walls instead of the stone walls because I wanted it to look as much like the picture as possible. So you can still see those little clippings of the wall, and I'm going to play with some objects in a little bit to make those disappear a little bit. And I decided to change the color of the railing back to white. I thought the black and the gray was just a little bit too dark for this build, so definitely went back to white on the bottom part at least. And now, so now I'm adding, like in the photo, you can see the domes have like a little something sticking out on top. I don't know if they're crosses or hearts or what they are, but the closest that I could find was these little stallion roof decorations. And so I put those on top of each dome just to add a little bit more height and detail. And then in the middle one, you can't really see because it went by so fast, but I put two horses next to each other diagonally so that you have them sort of facing on opposite sides on the smaller domes, and then there's one larger piece on the upper dome. And now, still trying to cover this wall clipping, I'm playing around with some windows, and I realized that it sort of looks like a window shade. So I thought maybe if I find the perfect windows, I could just kind of mask that and pretend like that little overhang is part of the window, which works well on the front of the dome, but as you'll see in a second, I couldn't really make that go all the way around each of them. Otherwise, we would just have an endless amount of windows. So here I am still trying to figure that part out, but we'll end up playing with some greenery and things like that to where we can get those covered up just a bit more. Yeah, see, that's just way too many windows. I decided against that part. And if I could have fit like two windows side by side, that might have been an okay fix for those side walls, but it wasn't working. No matter what I did, I couldn't really cover that up. So here's the part where I'm going through and playing with like the different plants and greenery and trying to see what I could do to hide those. And I think I end up going with some store content. I usually try not to use a lot of it in my builds, especially if it's something that I'm building for people to download, because if you don't have that store item, it's just going to, be replaced with something else or disappear. But in this case, I kind of didn't have a choice. I wanted things to look a specific way, and I try not to ever use custom content, like stuff that other people have created. I try to use official items that were released by, the Sims or EA Games or Maxis or whoever actually builds the pieces. So I do buy store content from time to time, and you could definitely go to the Sims 3 store and purchase any of these items if you would like, but they are absolutely not necessary if you want to download this home. You can still have this big, beautiful castle, and I think, well, actually, I probably wouldn't recommend that because the stairs, especially because of the stairs, the build's going to get a little bit weird. So I don't recommend you download this home unless you're pretty good at building or renovating. You can definitely you could work with it to make it your own, or you could just go ahead and purchase those Sims 3 store packs that have those stairs, because I think those L-shaped stairs are probably the most important part. Okay, so here I am deciding that those domes on the first level should be a little bit higher. I'm definitely gonna up those a bit, so it looks a little bit more like the photo. I couldn't really do I don't know, it almost looks like the walls are diagonal, and I definitely couldn't figure that part out. Like, that diagonal, is that the right word? Like, slanted, like they weren't all the same height. And I think if I played more with like constrained floor elevation sheets and things like that, I might have been able to do something a little bit more creative, but I'm not very skilled at that, so this was the best I could do. But now, this is what I was talking about earlier. I finally realized I should have columns on the wall instead of trying to mimic it with wallpaper, because duh, we have columns. So I just laid a bunch out there and tried to pick the one that I thought looked best with the build and most like the picture. And these columns up here on this sort of second or third story, depending on how you look at it, almost look like they were spiraled. I guess spiraled is the right word. I don't know. They look a little bit clunky, not clunky, chunky, segmented. That's a good way of saying it. The columns look segmented. So when I found those spiral ones, I thought that mimic that feel really well. But the columns on the bottom portion of the build look more like they were completely flat. So I decided to just use a different column. I didn't want to use all the same throughout the entire home. So I'm trying to decide between two different ones right there. They look very similar, so you probably couldn't even really see the difference. But those are the ones that I settle on, and now I realize that like the end of the stairs looks like it's floating in midair, which probably isn't a good idea. So I do decide to put a few columns under those as well to look like they're supporting the staircase. And again, I went with a third column, a different style there as well. And now, wow, 4 columns. I guess I used 4 different styles because this part I did go with the ones that looked a little bit more flat, like they were part of the wall instead of part of the structure. Does that make sense? Like a decoration of the wallpaper. I don't know what I'm saying, guys. Ignore me. I just feel like I'm rambling at this point. But yeah, columns, figured that part out. I think it looks all right. It's not perfect, but like I said, it's the best that I could do. And now, what am I doing? More columns. The columns are never going to end. All right. So when you see a lot of these like paused here, I'm just kind of probably referring back to the photo, or yeah, that's definitely what I'm doing. I'm just looking at the photo and trying to compare the two and decide what I need to do. And since I made that second, or I made those domes 2 stories instead of 1, I decided to put a second column on top to sort of make it look like it was one tall one. And they don't really blend together that well, but again, it's the best I could do. So now I'm working on the upper, or I just was working on the upper floor, trying to decide if I should add more stories going up or build more rooms or leave it kind of empty up there. And I think I end up adding a 3rd floor. So yeah, there I go again. Just trying to add a little bit more shape to the structure. It does end up looking a little bit boxy, and you could see where my creativity sort of starts and ends without the photo showing the back of the build. I'm a little bit stumped as to what to do. So I think I do build it and tear it down a few times until I find something that I'm happy with. But I think that ends up what it, or this is what it ends up being, just sort of a 3rd floor just indented a bit into the build, so it's not completely box all the way around, although it's pretty close to box shape, rectangular at the very least with a few diagonal edges. That's my creativity for you. But since I decided to make this part into a room here, I realized that I didn't need to put all that extra greenery around the back of the domes. So decided to just remove some of that. You can't really see the mistake of the clipping in the wall, especially with having that ceiling there. And when you go down to the floor below, you definitely can't see it. It disappears. So I figured I would just delete the greenery back there and just keep that as a room, a nice big giant room. So here I am playing with these columns again. I couldn't make them look to be one long, tall column. I do eventually look down and realize, oh my gosh, you can make columns taller if you want. So you'll see that in a little bit when I start to play around with that. But even then, the columns wouldn't line up completely. Right now, okay, so let me try to explain this part. In the photo above like the biggest curved door, you see sort of a slant shape right in front of that giant dome. I think you could probably tell what I'm talking about. And it goes up and meets at a point. And I could not think for the life of me how to make a wall do that. I don't even know if it's possible. I mean, it might be, but I couldn't think of any way to do it. So I started looking for objects that sort of mimic that triangle shape instead. And then I found the chess pieces, which I totally wanted to use in this build anyways. So that ended up just being perfect. By putting the taller one in the middle and the shorter ones on the 2 sides, it gives the illusion of a triangle. So I was really happy that I found those objects to settle on. And now I'm trying to decide about the backyard. I know that I eventually want to build some sort of rose garden, of course, a maze perhaps, and a giant chessboard. I don't know if that's all going to go into this specific build or if I'm going to make those separate places or separate homes throughout the world. But I did decide to leave that big open space in the middle just in case I want to build something back there, which if I do, you will see in the next video, part 2 of the build. Or at the very least, it'll just be like a nice little backyard area with some landscaping and such, but I don't do anything to it in this part of the build, or this part of the video, I should say. But there are 2 giant chunks of land in the front too that, I don't know, you can't really see, but there's a lot of front yard, so I could definitely do some of those mazes or gardens in the front too as well. We'll just have to see how that turns out. Like, this build is taking so long and I'm putting so much effort into it that it's sort of, I don't know, even though it's very structured and I'm going off of a photo, it's also a bit organic because I don't have a plan. I don't know what's going to go where. I'm just kind of doing it as I go along. So for me, this is pretty much where the photo inspiration ends. Well, I guess there's a few more things. It looks like there's something in the fountain. I can't really tell, so I decided to just put a statue. And then, of course, I will use the trees and a little bit of the flowers as inspiration for the landscaping, which you won't see, unfortunately, until the very end since that photo is cropped down there. But yeah, besides those few things, the inspiration from the photo is pretty much done. Anything else I do to this build is just going to have to be purely from my head, not having something to look at to guide me. I think I was going to change that front gate, and then I said, no, I'm going to leave it. I like the heart shape. It is perfect. And, oh yeah, just fixing that little part of the fence there, or I guess it looks like a trim. I'm not sure exactly what that's meant to be. But here's the part where I go through and do the trees and some very light landscaping. I definitely want to do a lot more to this home, but for now, I just sort of build the trees around it. Well, not build, place. I place the trees around the build. And you'll see in the photo at the end of the screenshots that these trees are pretty similar to what is portrayed. And the only thing I couldn't find, which, gosh, you can't see, I wish I left the picture up. There were some trees that were really tall and completely rounded on top, and I just couldn't find those or anything like them. So this is why you see me circling through the trees 50 million times trying to find something. I end up going with those two little ones right there that are just more rounded than the rest. They're definitely not as tall as the ones in the photo, but they'll work. They'll work for now. I swear, I went through every single tree twice. I think I'm very well acquainted with how many trees are in the game now. Oh my gosh, so much fun. It's hard to play with a lot of these trees sometimes because most of the builds that I do are very small and a lot of these trees are just gigantic. So building on this giant, I believe 60 by 60 or 64 by 64 lot, I was definitely able to play with some of those larger ones. And now I'm doing the landscaping around the front, which, like I said, I need to do a lot more. I was just trying to mimic the photo in this part. So I only do the landscaping around the gate. But yeah, just adding a few flowers. I might change this up completely, but there you go. There's the final screenshot. Now you can finally see the gate and the flowers and the trees I've been talking about. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I mean, with the side-by-side, you can see that my home is very influenced of the one in the picture, although not exact. I think it's as close as my talents can get me in The Sims 3. But I hope you guys enjoy this. I will put up part 2 when it's done. And yeah, I thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I can't wait to start my Alice Let's Play. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the next video. And I will see you guys next time. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.